Hi, my name is Owen McGabinawa, and welcome to HYVA. And what we do here is we show entrepreneurs how to focus on their income-producing activities by outsourcing tasks to virtual assistants. But besides that, one of the things I do here is on my blog, I bring on successful entrepreneurs to come on here to share with you guys, the challenges they've had in their business and exactly how they overcame them, so that we can take the information and implement in our business and also be successful as well. And so today I have Ryan Shoup and Nick Rosa of doggyloot.com. So go ahead, say hi to my community.
How's it going?
Going good. And so the reason I have them on here is because, what do you do when, a giant, one of these big giant corporations come into a niche that you're in? Do you run, or do you just, give up, or do you find a way to pivot? And that's the situation that they went through with their business. And today I'm trying to figure out how exactly did they do that? What was the reaction when the giant came into the business, and how did they pivot to now continuously still be in business? So I guess the best thing to do is to hand it over to you guys and explain what exactly is doggyloot.com.
Thanks, Owen. Basically, what Doggy Mood is, we're very similar to a Groupon or a Living Social type of service where we provide daily deals. However, we differ in that we have a specific niche of catering specifically to dog owners. And in addition, one other major difference is that we provide almost exclusively deals with national online retailers, deals that will be shipped directly to your home. So rather than a deal to a brick and mortar daycare or boarder or groomer, generally our deals will be treats or toys or accessories shipped directly to your home.
Okay, and so I'm curious though. I figured that you guys didn't start out as Doggy Loot. Let's go back to the beginning of the story, because my goal here is to help my audience understand. When a giant comes in this case, Groupon now, for instance, in your niche, comes into the industry, what do you do? So let's go back to the story. How did you guys start out in this business? Was it always Doggy Loot? What was the previous business, I guess?
So previously, Nick and I worked on a company called Dash Mob, and Dash Mob began a couple of years ago, actually with our other co-founder. We joined the team this fall, and the three of us really tried to take this business into Chicago and make it work as this real-time location-based deal business.
Yeah.
So we would provide deals for businesses in a specific period of time when they might be slow with business. So let's say you were a consumer and you were in Chicago and you wanted a hamburger at lunchtime. It was 1:30 in the afternoon, and you search on your iPhone for where you can find a great deal for hamburgers in Chicago. You find 50% off at a couple of local places based on the location where you're at right then, and you can go and visit those hamburger joints and get 50% off. This is a service that we provided. It was great for consumers. They could find deals around them where they are happening right now. For the merchants, it was terrific because they could provide deals within a specific window of time, which was really appealing to them. So if you're a restaurant, it's Friday or Saturday night, you might not want to offer 50% off because you're packed already. Well, with our service, you could offer it on Tuesday afternoon when you need to get more customers, and yet you still have those high overhead costs.
And so I'm curious as to when you came up with what led to that idea, and why did you see there was a need to even build that dash mob in the first place, I guess.
Well, I think that came along through the feeling that we just felt nobody had figured out the deal space. There was a lot of talk about how Groupon was not getting the best reputation with their merchants. A lot of businesses were not unhappy that they'd sell it for 50% off, and it sounded good that they were going to get all these customers in, but then they realized these people would come in, like as Ryan said, on a Friday, Saturday night, when they would be full of tables anyway, and there would be customers waiting who were going to pay full price, but you had to still seat these people with Groupons that had half price vouchers. So they were, a lot of the companies were getting pretty upset about that. And we heard about that, so we're like, well, there's a problem that we can solve pretty easily. We can just make the timestamps on these vouchers when they're available and give some power back to the merchants. And so that's kind of how it came about, and what the problem that we were intending to solve was, and still have it be an advantage to the consumer. So the consumer still gets a great deal, but you just kind of have to go work around the merchant's schedule a little bit more. So that's kind of where it came from, is to solve the problem for the merchants, so that, and we figured that the merchants would love this more than Groupon because they could control the flow of traffic and get them in when they needed business and not have to give away half price offers when they didn't.
Definitely. And so I'm trying to figure out at what point did you guys come up with this strategy and say this is how you're going to differentiate yourself from everybody else who was in the deal space. But at what point did Groupon, I guess, come into the same arena and maybe start offering the same kind of product that you guys were?
So it was just recently, I would say it was about a month ago, where they actually started offering this service. But back at this late fall is when we started hearing rumblings. We're in Chicago, Groupon's in Chicago. We're not too far from them. And so we started hearing rumblings about this kind of service coming out. And it was very similar. It seemed like a natural solution to some of the problems that they were trying to solve. So it made sense for them to do it. And unfortunately for us, they've done it now.
Yeah.
But
well, we always thought that they were going to kind of catch on to this and think of it as a good idea. I mean, we weren't that naive to think that we were going to fly under the radar until we had 1 million users that were all using it. But kind of the hopeful was that Groupon was going to see us doing well and maybe just buy us something. That was the hopeful. And but when we heard that they were just going to be doing it on their own, just to kind of take it into the next step of what you're talking about, Ryan and I were thinking, well, unfortunately, they already have the penetration. And Ryan and I still thought that we built a great product. We started to get the business surrounding it. We had some relationships with vendors. We had a pretty respectable consumer list. But going up against Groupon, so if Groupon just sent out that email saying, guess what, this is what we're doing the same thing now. All of a sudden, our pretty respectable email list doesn't look as respectable next to theirs.
Definitely. And at this point now, I mean, if any entrepreneur listening to this, regardless of their own situation, whatever niche they're in, some people, we're all humans. You might start panicking and start, I mean, how am I going to compete against this giant people? This big company with all this notoriety and buzz. You see their commercials every day. I mean, like, how can we deal with them? What frame of mind were you guys at that point? Did you guys just say, oh, we're just going to pivot? I mean, walk us through how you dealt with the situation is what I'm trying to figure out.
I think there was a couple of factors at play for us, and so one, we'd be remiss to say that we're a part of this venture capital firm here in Chicago called Sandbox Industries, and we have a lot of great advisors that have been very successful business people throughout their careers that helped us work through this process, and so. I think it was a tough situation for us. We felt like we had something that was an exciting business, something that made a lot of sense, and something that we thought could have terrific success. And Groupon now wasn't around yet then. They are now, but at the time it was like, well, they're coming around. How long is this going to take? This and that. Maybe we can do something significant before they do come around so that they have to swoop in and purchase us, or we can coexist, that kind of thing. But I think our advisors helped us realize that, it might not be the best idea to go head on with them. But from what we've learned, from what we've been doing, there might be some very complementary type offerings that we can make and some opportunities that we've seen by being in the deal space that can help lead to something not only auxiliary to what we're doing, but potentially even better and that could lead to more success than what we're doing. And so through that, we were able to help. We had some help in helping us figure that out. And then as a team, we all kind of came together in terms of what that opportunity, what that next best opportunity is from all that we learned from what we're doing with DashMob.
And please tell me some more about I guess you're part of a business incubator, right? So was that how you always started out this idea, or at what point did they become? Because the thing is, some entrepreneurs that might be listening to this might not have the chance to have that group of advisors working with them. So I want to make sure that when we're giving this information on how they pivot when a situation like this happens to them, that it's information that they can actually implement regardless of whether they have an incubator program with them. So go ahead. I guess you can help me with that.
Yeah, well, as Ryan said, and as you say, we were fortunate in that we were part of this larger incubator. So, giving up on DashMob, we don't like to say giving up, but pivoting away from DashMob didn't mean Ryan and I going out and having to look for jobs and, going and living on the street because we were out of funding, that sort of thing. So But at the same time, though, we did need to come up with a project, and that they're not going to pay people to sit around here and not doing anything. So what we kind of figured out was Ryan and I had learned quite a bit about the deal space, and we still felt like there were a lot of holes in this industry that weren't being solved, and a lot of areas to get in and really make a name for yourself. That even though Groupon, as big as they are, they don't fill every void. And so that was where Ryan and I said, well, let's kind of try to stay here. Let's figure out what some other people have done that was successful in here. And verticals seemed to kind of be where people were going, and there were some good ideas going on there.
So my takeaway, sorry for cutting you short, but my takeaway from that point is when this kind of situation happens is really look at the whole platform and say, okay, the big guy is trying to take over everybody, but where's their tentacles not in right now that I can actually go in and really become like the big fish in the small pond even before they eventually figure that part out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you just have to be really aware of your surroundings, and you have to use what you've already learned. A lot of ways we could look at it and say, hey, we didn't accomplish what we could have accomplished with Dash Mob. But I think with any business, you have to look at it as, hey, what have we learned from this opportunity? This is from everything that we've done with Dash Mob, good or bad, we're learning something from that, and we're learning about all these other opportunities. And so that's what I would encourage other business people to look at is, hey, we're doing something here. There's certainly going to be, as you're going along with your business, certainly going to be some things that come about that you learn that may be opportunities, that may be problems, maybe threats related to your business. And you just have to take those and run with those, and it's going to take a lot of hard decisions, but you have to step back and look at it from the bigger picture and decide from there what makes sense, whether that's your current route or some other opportunities that you might have.
And go ahead, make your point. Go ahead.
I was going to say, to add on to that point, and also what was big for us too is applying what you've learned. Where can you reapply that same knowledge rather than starting from square one again, having to go through all same learnings? Where can your lessons be still applicable, and where can you go that you won't make the same mistakes again, or where you can repeat the same successes, where you know how to apply their knowledge, basically.
Definitely, and one of the things is I learn a lot from examples. So when someone, I guess, explains a concept, I really want to to give the concept more meat by talking about examples specifically. So in your case, you learned that you had to really dive down and grow into a niche, and your advisors work with you on that. So tell us, how exactly did you now implement this process? The more detailed, the better, I guess.
So we did a few things. So we knew we were in this deal space. We had some other ideas that we had and some others around us had for other areas that we could go from using things that we've learned from Dash Mob. And so we looked at some ideas related to the restaurant space in particular, some ideas related to bidding, so to speak, for different restaurants based on different times that you could go to. We looked at a variety of ideas in this realm, and whether it's appealing to the discount side for deals, or whether it's appealing to generally just helping find cool new things to do, because really that's what Dash Mob or a Groupon or a Doggy Loot are doing. They're providing discounts. They're also providing great new, exciting new things for people to do. So we looked a lot in the restaurant space in regards to this, and then we started looking at the niche space and what niche would work best. And so the niche space, we felt like there was a lot more opportunity. The Groupon kind of niche, Groupon model niche space, we felt like there was a lot more opportunity for us to get something up and running very quickly and without a tremendous amount of capital. We thought we could bring in revenue very quickly with that, and within a month of us coming up with this idea, we had our first revenue. So that was really exciting for us. And in terms of looking at the different niches, once we kind of decided, let's look at different niches in the Groupon model space. Dogs, we had just seen some successful exits in the mom-related space and Groupon model space. And we said, hey, what's the next most important thing to a mom or to a set of parents or people that are going to be making these purchases after their kids? Because essentially the mom-based Groupons were going after kid-like products, right? So we said, well, what about dogs? Collectively, we are a group of dog lovers, and we said this would be a great opportunity for us to get into this. And so the competition was very light at that point, almost non-existent for the group on dog kind of niche. And so we said, let's give this a shot.
Definitely. And I'm curious though, because during this research of trying to find your niche, you had so many different options that you can go into. Some of the things that we can learn from is the decisions you made as to why not to go into certain niches, and as to why you decided to go. I want to understand why you decided to go to the dog niche, but anything come to mind in regards to certain niches that came up that you decided not to go into, and exactly why?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, as Ryan said, we'd seen a lot of people on getting into the parent niche and like the mom niche, and we'd seen a lot of that. So the competition was a little heavier there. Another thing is kind of going back to the Dash Mob days and kind of applying this learning. Where's something that we don't see Groupon going? And we'd never seen Groupon launch any sort of deals around dogs and dog-related products. And in order for them to kind of make that a separate line of them, and not just Groupon, the Living Socials, all the big guys around there, had all steered clear of doing dog deals. So it was primarily untapped. I mean, and when we first started making our calls, a lot of these people, so that's going back to why we did go dog, but a lot of it was Groupon. We had an idea about possibly doing home and garden, that sort of thing, and improvements for your home. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, actually a couple months after we'd started Doggy Loop, that there was a Groupon home. Groupon has a home division that they launched as well. You know, there was talk about possibly going into golf, because golf's another thing that people spend quite a bit of money on and would always appreciate that. But golf courses can always use like a little more traffic during some of the lighter times. Now, when you look at some of those larger deal sites, though, you're going to be competing with them as well. Living Social, Groupon, they all launched golf deals, at least during the season, probably not too often in December in Chicago, but during the summertime and during the golf season. So a lot of it was also initially not because we were scared of the competition, but just where can we go and establish ourselves where we were not going to have to compete with any juggernauts right away? Where can we go and kind of grow to be the largest one?
Definitely. And I understand the part of the research, but sometimes research is backed by data to really make sure that the point makes sense to you. When you're doing your research, what kind of data analysis, or what did you use to really make sure that niche you're going into made sense? Not only is the big guys not involved in it, but in terms of the numbers, it made sense for you to go into, I guess.
So there's a few things that we did. One was we used surveys. We have a company here that we also is in the same incubator as us called Lab 42, and they do surveys. And we were able to utilize their technology to survey people in these different categories and what people would like, what people are looking for, and basically see if people were looking for what we wanted to offer them. And so we use surveys, we use them quite a bit, and they were very helpful. We also interviewed people. We interviewed consumers related to the deal space, as well as merchants in related areas within the deal space. And we used interviews quite a bit to help with this directional data for us on where we should head. And then furthermore, there's so much, we're part of the information age right now, right? So there's so much information on the web, and we really scoured the web for looking for competitors related to different ideas, looking for information in terms of what the market size is for these different opportunities. This kind of businesses. Yeah, and so I would say those were the three main things that we used for our research: was the survey, the interviewing of actual potential customers, and then our own, I guess it would be secondhand research via the internet.
And I got to tell you guys are doing really good, because I've never done a two-guy interview where I'm interviewing two people, and you guys must really be doing a lot of interviews, because when I ask a question, one person answers, the next person, I'm even trying to figure in my mind, who do I ask this question to? But you guys are doing really great.
You're seeing us our good faces on now. So a lot of times we do. In meetings, it's a little bit of a different story.
That's great. And so now you've done the research, you backed it up by data, because data is always good to validate any ideas you have. And then how do you now launch this product and I guess get the word out about this new niche in the group buying arena? What did you guys do exactly?
Once we launched, Initially, well, we planned out about a month before we launched to gather a plethora of deals so that we wouldn't be right away having to be overnight trying to get the next deal for the next day. So both of us kind of hit the phone, started calling around, and at this point, we were only doing local businesses in Chicago. Chicago was our first city, so we were going to be doing the daycare, the boarding, and that sort of thing. And we had a certain knowledge that Groupon had a great viral effect, so we figured once we gathered some people, we were sending people out to dog parks to do signups, doing as much promotional activity as we could through going to sponsoring events, that sort of thing. A lot of grassroots movement stuff to gather our users initially, and then gathering up the businesses to launch our first deals. So within a month, as Ryan said, we had revenue, which was a lot of fun because we launched it. But shortly after we realized that, it was very tough to target users and to acquire users online in just the Chicago area. And so then we started doing one national deal a week, which is like an online retailer that sends something right to someone's door when they order it online. And it really did not take long for us to realize that when we were targeting national users, we were growing so rapidly in the national space, but only offering one deal a week to them and offering 2 extra deals a week to this tiny little portion of our consumers. So quickly after that, we realized another pivot. We're like, we should just be doing national deals, and let's try to get more national deals. And then we also kind of shifted so that I was gathering up all of our deals, our national deals that we were going to do, and Ryan was focusing on our consumer acquisition and keeping that relatively cheap because we are still on a limited budget, as most entrepreneurs are. And so together it made it really, really quite easy for us to get to do that because it's easy when you split focus. Now then it also leads to one person having one side of the story, the other person having the other side, because it's an interesting business. You really have 2 customers. You have your vendors who are your customers, and you have consumers that are your customers. So it's very difficult to find that happy medium, and usually one or the other. If you make something easier for one, it makes it harder for the other. So it is kind of a balancing act, which is also why it's nice to have 2 co-founders who can balance it a little bit easier rather than having one person speaking for everybody.
And I have 2 questions. One on okay, I guess the first one is why exactly, what was the issue with focusing only in Chicago when you guys started then, because you now said you moved to the part of trying to be national. So there must have been something there that I didn't catch that made you guys make that decision. And then secondly, because you're in a marketplace kind of business where you're trying to, connect the dots between the consumer and then the companies that are offering the deals, you said something about having to, build a balance, but, I'm sure there's certain things that you've learned as a result of doing what you guys do that has really helped you guys to really hone in on that, creating that balance. And I would love to jump into that if you don't mind as well.
So first, related to why we switched from local deals to national deals, on the local deals, I think Nick mentioned this earlier in the conversation, but we eventually would like to get back to that as well. We think it's a great offering and adds a lot of value. But the difficult thing, especially starting out, is that to get a lot of volume, we found it was much easier very quickly to get people on a national basis anywhere throughout the United States versus people specifically in Chicago, even though we're here in Chicago, which was, I think, surprising to us.
Both of us, yeah.
But, we're able to get thinking about our user acquisition methods. We're using a ton of online user acquisition methods. And you think about, we're a dog-related site, so we want to get on a lot of other dog-related sites to promote our service. Well, most of these sites, they don't want to splice up their advertising to just Chicago or just New York or just San Francisco. So for us, working with them, it was much easier, and we could get a lot of more partners helping us to promote this if we could say, hey, this is a national thing. Also for PR purposes, Chicago paper, Chicago news outlets, we could get a little bit maybe of specific here in Chicago, but if we said, hey, we're a Chicago service, some paper in Orlando isn't going to be interested about writing about it. So that was a big part of the reason for that.
Or even a national dog website, it's harder to put up an ad. If you're just a Chicago service, they're like, okay, well, half my users aren't going to care about this, so why would I want to put this up there?
Totally understand. I get it. And the other point was really the because you're in the marketplace trying to meet the needs of. I mean, what have you guys learned as a result of doing this that really helps to really balance that act? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We've learned a lot from it. Now, do we have a perfect solution yet? Probably not. So we're still interview us again in a year and we'll let you know what we figured out. But no, it really is just like you said. It's about balancing. It's about so we realize that a lot of our merchants are it's tougher for them to include shipping in their cost. Yet a lot of the consumers are like, I don't want to buy a voucher that I don't know how much shipping is going to cost me at the end. So we just started, applying, all right, well, how about your voucher can be used towards shipping? We're not going to necessarily offer shipping up for free, but you can kind of do it at the half price point. So, we'll cut them a little bit of a break. So that's kind of the easiest example of how we kind of compromise on both fronts, because as you can imagine, every merchant's like, well, no, they've got to pay for shipping because that's still an out cost for me. But every consumer is like, well, if I buy this from your site, I don't want to also have to pay $5 shipping on that. It doesn't seem like it's good of a deal. So it really is just kind of weighing out what you're asking from the merchant and what the consumer is looking at, and so trying to keep it at as good of a deal as you can without totally taking the merchant to the cleaners on what they're doing. And a lot of it is really how much value we create after our deal is run, because that's what deals are supposed to do for these merchants, is create future business. These individual deals aren't where the money is made for the merchant. That's where the money is made for us, and for the consumer gets a great deal. But the idea is to expose the consumer to these products. And so once we kind of started gaining some traction in that, all right, well, we're providing you with quite a few customers after this, and it's up to your products to get them to come back. And once we learned that customers were going back to these merchants, it made it a little bit easier to be like, the more you give, the more you put aside on this first deal, the better the deal you make it, the more people that are going to get exposed to your product, and the more money you stand to make in the long run. So that's really the challenge, is to make sure the merchants understand that it's not about this deal. It's about getting the people to come back and return, and the more people are going to do that if you give them a better deal the first time. Definitely. So that's kind of, I know I've said deal and kind of talked over myself a lot there, but that's really the understanding, is getting the merchant to understand that as well.
Definitely. And one of the things you mentioned was customer acquisition, and one of the things I was wondering is, how does the whole viral aspect of what you guys do, how does it play into this thing of trying to acquire new users of your service, I guess? Is there any kind of viral techniques you guys are putting into play in this?
We're still trying to figure that out. If somebody that's listening has an idea, please email us and let us know.
Definitely, man. You guys have been really awesome. And you said something about you have a bunch of acquisition channels. If you don't mind, maybe we can just talk about a few of them that you think is really working, so people can listen to this, can implement some ideas like this in their business.
We'll give you some.
So you don't have to give us the whole thing now, just a little bit.
I think the first thing, if somebody's starting up their own business, one thing that's really cool and that it is really harped on here at our incubator is that you want to get a landing page up first. So you get a landing page up, and you really want to have some real knowledge of Facebook ads and Google ads, because you can reach any specific audience that you want through those two kind of ads. And yeah, you want to reach people additionally in volume through other sources at some point. But if you start with those, you can really figure out whether people are going to be interested in your service or not. So start with those, and you can really play with those numbers a lot and really work on volume and conversion and getting your price down on those. And then I would say for us, the key is that because we're dog related, as I mentioned briefly before, we want to, there's a lot of dog related sites out there. We want to work with them to get on their site, because we know that's where our target market is going to be. And then furthermore, now we're looking into some other bigger ad networks that have placements. They might not be as big as Google in terms of their placements on different sites or their reach, but AOL has a network with advertising.com. You can target specific groups with this, and there's others out that we're starting to work with and look at. But I would say the most important thing is utilize those Facebook and Google ads and work on really educating yourself on how to optimize those.
Definitely. I think a bit like kind of like use Facebook and Google as the place where you learn and make mistakes, so that in terms of the ad and how you optimize it, so that once you get something that works, you can now take what works to one of those niche sites where it might be a little bit more expensive to place an ad, but then you're putting a higher converting ad on those sites, so that you're really optimizing everything when you go on the niche site, I guess.
Yeah, the bigger sites, it's a lot more expensive to test something out too, right? So they don't want to deal with you spending $10 on there. You can do that on Google and Facebook to figure things out.
Yeah,
definitely.
And also, we do also, sorry, I was going to say, we also, going back to the viral component too, the nature of the deal space, we were fortunate enough to get into an industry that had this going, but when somebody gets a great deal, they like to tell other people about it. And so we have on our site, we have a nice program where they get $5 credit to Doggy Loot for people that they send over who purchase the deal as well. And wow. We have a real, yeah. So if you check it out on doggyloot.com, you can see that there's it's a section of the box next to every deal where you can click on either Facebook, Twitter, email, all sorts of stuff, and then send it out to your friends and anybody who comes back and purchases through an email that you had sent out. Well, you'll get a $5 credit for them. So because we're giving an offering to these people as well, they're encouraged to share the offering with their network as well. And so that's the viral spread that we've kind of been fortunate enough that we're a part of in this deal space. So I know that doesn't apply to everybody because everybody's not going to be able. All businesses can't utilize something like that, but that's also helped quite a bit too. And then the other thing about it is it encourages the person who shared the deal to come back because if they get 5 people to sign up, got $25 that they can't spend on another site. They have to spend it there. So,
that's awesome. I'm going to think about how I can use that in my business as well too. And I have the thing is, everyone who's been listening to this so far, we've kind of been hitting the point of how do you pivot when a giant comes into your industry. And so far, in closing, is there anything that you feel that you can share with any entrepreneur that's been listening to this so far that will really help them in this direction, especially when they have someone coming in that's coming to take over that industry? What one point can you leave before we close that you think can really help them to move forward?
My point would be that it takes I'll make 2 points. One, it takes it takes them a long time to do whatever they're going to do. And even though we knew Groupon Now was coming, it took them a long time. It was a good thing we pivoted with Dash Mob. But do what you're going to do, and do it quickly and do it well. They might threaten that they're going to do certain things, but they're going to miss certain niches. And so as a tag along to that previous point, whatever they're doing, they're going to be focused on the much bigger picture, and they're certainly leaving some niches, some areas left untouched that they don't have time or they're too big to pivot to. And so take advantage of those and look for those little areas that they may be missing.
Go ahead, make your point.
Yeah, no, I was gonna kind of reiterate Ryan's point about large companies move slow, and I heard a great analogy about you're trying to get to the finish line, like that's the goal of getting there. And somebody told me a great analogy one time that I like to use, and it's about a race. And these big guys are like elephants getting to the finish line, pretty like slow steps. And what you want to be is like a chicken, to be able to get in and out of their legs to get to the finish line and move fast. And that's what you are as a startup, is you're quick and nimble, and you can change real quick. Whereas they have to go through 3 board meetings and four approval processes before they can make the same switch you guys can make in a morning. So that's so be like Ryan said, don't get discouraged if you think they're coming, because there's still some ways that you can get by and get quick and gain some market share before they even have gotten their website built.
Well, Ryan and Nick, I really appreciate this interview, man. How best can anyone who's listened so far, how can they get a hold of you guys?
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Email is very easy. You can reach us and our entire team at woof@doggyloot.com, WOOF@doggyloot, DOGGYLOOT.com, or you can reach me directly at Ryan, RYAN, @doggyloot.com, or Nick at
doggyloot.com, NICK.
And is there any deal on the website that we can send dog lovers to? Because I would love to do that.
Yeah. Yes, right now we have a few deals up.
Magazine.
We have a magazine, $7.50 for a $15 subscription to Modern Dog Magazine. There's also a locator tag from Find My Animal, right. $22 value for $11. And then there is also a doggy backpack from Wagon that is priced at, I believe, $23. That's a $55 value. So not just one deal, but 3 live deals right now.
Definitely. So guys, depending on whenever you're listening to this and you love dogs, just go on Doggy Loot and check it out and come back and let us know what you think about it. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Owen.
And we're done. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. And before you go, I want you to do me a favor. I'm trying to build my community of entrepreneurs who find my content useful on Facebook so we can engage, have discussions live right there on Facebook. And to get to my page on Facebook, you go to www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And again, it's www.com. What am I saying? No, it's www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And when you get there, what you're going to do is look for the a button that says like, and you click on that button, and then basically you become a fan of the page. It's that simple. You don't even have to leave me your email. Just click on the button that says like. And again, the page to go to is www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And that stands for HYVAssistant. Real easy. I look forward to seeing you on Facebook. Have a great day.